Feel free to start asking questions.
So,
Okay, you can do it. You can
go for it.
Oh, you guys are too polite.
No, just go for it. Don't worry.
Okay.
So.
Oh my god.
No.
Let me ask
Yeah,
question then. I'm kidding, guys. So
We're never gonna get this class going. Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So, on my homework, moving on to color, should I just throw color layers on top and build on top of that and work from that? Or would you advise, like,
Yes, ma'am.
going a different route? Okay, cool.
Well, you can do whatever you feel comfortable doing. I usually stay color layer and then just do that for a bit and then and then adjust accordingly, right?
Okay.
But if you sometimes some students feel way better with just starting in color.
Yeah.
I usually say, yeah, if you feel better, then do it. If not, then don't do it.
Right.
So whatever that situation may be for you, you decide.
Okay. I'm going to try the color layer thing because I've never done that before, so I guess we'll see. And do you just want them, like, on a plain background, or can I elaborate the background a little bit more?
So my thoughts on backgrounds is that as long as it doesn't take away from the time that you're working on the actual project, because sometimes when people work on or add like a background like you're suggesting, they also like spend way too much time making the background, and then it's just like they end up having a mediocre background with a mediocre refinement of their character, and that's what I want to avoid.
Yeah. All right, cool. I just feel like setting the scene a little bit for them, just so that, I don't know, it just seems more fitting for me. So I'll give it a shot, though. I won't waste time on it.
Yeah, I think having a character in a play background works perfectly fine in concept art.
Cool. Alrighty, that's all I had to ask for the moment. Thank you.
All right, cool. Go ahead, Leo, you interrupter.
It's just a quick one. You can answer that already, but I just want to be sure. Like at this stage, I am like now just have to render a tree design, and how many time you will I should spend at maximum, like doing just one character and then move on to another one. Like if you have a time.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of having timers for all things, and that's including like finishing something. And I would say, give yourself no more than like 10 hours total spent on a character. Not to say that you will spend 10 hours by next class on each character. I'm just saying total. That's a good goal.
Yeah.
So if you go over that, then you can quantify why and what you did wrong and what you can do better next time. And then when you do a painting again, you can try to go at the same rate. So let's say you did 12 hours instead of 10, then try to do it again in 10. But the goal is always to do it better than you did it before, in the same amount of time or less. The problem is that sometimes people don't do that, right? So they just work on one project for like hours on end, for days on end, and they never have a good scope of how much they can do in how much time, right? This will fix that, and not only will that fix it, it will also teach you how to become a better engager of your own like workflow, right? Like so, if a client asks you to do something in X amount of time, you can be able to look at it and be like, I can objectively understand how long it's going to take me to do this now.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Versus just like going straight in and you know what I mean? Like going straight in and just totally botching it. Right. Don't worry, like I've done that too, where I was like, yeah, I could totally do all that work in that much time, and then I do it, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm gonna crash and burn, and that's what happened many times to me.
Okay. And just to follow, like you said, you should work like a few hours, or I don't remember the time, and then move on, and then go back to characters. Should I do that, or just focus on one, and then when I think it's quite good, I just move on and?
I always tell people to spend a certain amount of time and move on often. So even though I
Okay.
said 10 hours, I don't mean like just straight 10 hours. Like that's just
Yeah.
uh, cumulative. And so you want to do that over a long period of time, right? Like 10 hours over the span of 2 or 3 days, right? Um, because you want to constantly be adjusting your point of view of your work. If you don't constantly adjust, then you'll live in like you'll have these blinders on the whole time.
Yeah.
So anyway, hope that helps.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Uh, wait a minute. All right, so sorry. More questions, feel free to ask. Come on. Come on.
Well, if no one has a question, I have another one.
Yeah, go for it.
It's a very technical question. No, it's not technical. It's related to brush. Like I don't use the smudge tool a lot, and because I can't really set up one that I really like. And I've looked at a lot of like tutorials and how to make a good smudge tool, and I don't quite understand them. So maybe like you have a way I can set up one that works for pretty much everything. I don't have to like adjust it every time I want.
Wait, say that again? What's the problem?
I can't set up a good smudge brush.
I see.
Uh,
Yeah, I'll show you in just a second. I'm
okay.
trying to. My mind just got real distracted by turning my paintings into a normal map. I wonder. I wonder. I wonder if I can make. I think it's just RGB, right? That's all this is. Okay, so anyway, I'm trying to think that I can probably make a normal map of a 2D character, okay, and then turn
Okay.
that normal map into the lighting information, so I can make a 2D plane that looks like it's being lit. Do you hear what I'm saying? Do you guys get what I'm putting down? Oh, dude,
I didn't know you could do that.
I'm gonna test this, man. This is exciting. I'm gonna test it like right now, even. Okay, so let's talk about it. Let's fix that solution, the question that you're talking about. So, yeah, I think it'd be a cool science experiment. Let's try it out. Yeah. So my smudge tool is very simple. So pay attention. Write this down or screen capture, whatever is the easiest. So shape dynamics, scattering, and transfer are all on. Okay.
Okay.
Let's go through each one. Shape dynamics, pen pressure off, off, off. Actually, I'm not sure why this is on. There's nothing. There's nothing that it's doing. It was just on for whatever reason. Okay. Yeah, it wasn't doing anything different. Okay, whatever. So never mind, just scattering. So this I know, I can recognize. 30% scattering, 1 count, 0% jitter.
Okay.
All right. And then transfer pen pressure. 0, 0 on strength and on the pen pressure. And then up here on the very top, right where it says strength, right, it's right underneath the view in 3D. you'll see strength and you'll see that it says 25%. Yours will not be at 25. It should be default like 50 or something like that. Change that to 25%. And then bam, you will have the smudge tool that I have.
Okay. And so I can just like pick a brush and
Well,
no, it's I have to make a
It
preset.
has to be, that's a good question actually. It has to be the airbrush and the spacing
Yeah.
at
Okay.
25%.
Okay.
I mean, you could pick any kind of brush and it actually will work fine. You can do experiments. But the one that I use consistently is the airbrush one.
Okay. Well, thank you.
All right, so my strategy would be, okay, so let us get background color. All right, what value is this? Oh no, I wanted to do that. Filter, normal map. All right, so what color is that? Where is my color information? All right, 240, 50, 100. 240, 50, 100. 240, 50, 100. All right, so then I want to make a solid color layer of this color. Okay. And then we should make that an action. We should make this all an action. You guys know how to make actions? Let's time to learn. So let's go ahead and make a new folder. We'll call it 3D for now. And then we'll make an action. All right. Make normal map painting. I wonder if I can, never mind, let's not worry about that. Okay, start to record. So let's go ahead and make the solid color layer of this. That's fine. And then we got to make a solid color layer of solid color layer, and then we got to make it of red. So we'll do 255, I believe that's it. This is 0, and this is 0. Then this we want to turn off. And then we want to duplicate. We want to make another solid color layer, and we want to go here, and then do 255 here, 0, 0. Okay. And then the last but not least, we want to make this 25500. Do that, click on this, and there we have it. Stop the action. So if I press this, it should make all those layers. Nice. And what this should do is it should allow me to basically paint a normal map. The problem is I don't know how normal maps work. And this does not look like appropriate normal map. I'll have to look at normal maps and understand the logic and maybe redesign this action. You know what? I think I've saw this before, where you can go to black and white, and then you can basically do it through this. Like you can paint it this way. You hear what I'm getting at? I'll have to do some more research. I'm sure someone else has discovered this. But that
So
would be
actions are
dope.
like macro keys, but
Yeah.
like for Photoshop?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you didn't know
I'll
that
have to-
before, now you know. Yeah,
Oh, man.
it's I actually have a lot I normally have since I restarted my machine. I don't have them there yet, but I have like color dodge and overlay and color layer and like gradient map, like stuff that I often need to like. I don't want to have to go here, make a new layer, click on this, make that, turn that, you know. It's just a
Yeah.
button now. I just press a button and it just does it. And
Nice.
especially for gradient maps, I also remember I was joking like I wish Photoshop would make like a flip canvas or not a flip canvas, mirror canvas. I
Yeah.
I made my own because I was just annoyed that they didn't have theirs, so I just made my own.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was actually about to ask a question
Yeah, let's do
about
it.
gradient maps because there's this artist I really like, Saba Subteris. He uses them a lot in his paintings, or she, he or she.
I don't know.
And I just really like the way they use them because it just totally changes his like lighting landscape in like the most interesting ways. And I'm really not used to using them or understanding them. Just wondering how
Yeah,
you like to
sure.
use them.
I like to use them mostly for lighting effects, but I've seen people use it for like what you were saying. Um, and so gradient maps, I'll just explain how they work, and then you can kind of
Yeah.
deduct how to use it after that. It's really simple, actually. So, uh, not a gradient map. There's a difference. So basically, it's taking black and white information. Okay, it's taking that data and
Mm-hmm.
it's converting it into a different into different data. Okay, and the the nodes on the top are
Yeah.
just reflective of the values in between. And so if you can paint within value, then you should be all right. I've never messed with the top nodes. I've always just left those there. I
Mm-hmm.
only affect the bottom uh, nodes. So I can add like a node here, and you can see that it starts with black right off the bat. But
Yeah.
see what it's doing? It's basically saying from this point over here, there's a gradation of only, it's going to gradate from this color to the other color, which is right here, it's black. So
Mm-hmm.
there is no gradation because these colors are both the same. But there is a gradation here because these are not the same. This is white.
Right. Yeah.
So if I were to change this to, let's say, like a red, then what's going to happen is that it's going to gradate like to like a pink to white, and over here
Yeah.
it's going to gradate to like a dark red to black. See that?
Mm-hmm.
As I suspected. Okay?
Yeah.
What's cool is that you can control like, well, I don't want this to be red. I actually want this to be a different color. Like I want it to be dark, but maybe it starts to become green. So you can
Hmm.
imagine like if you're like, let's say you're trying to make like a lighting scene for like a sphere. And when then things get to the shadow, give it like some sort of gradation between this desaturated blue or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it goes to when it goes to a brighter value, we can say, well, that's getting closer to the light, so it's going to start burning a little bit hotter. And this will be like, let's say, the material of just one thing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just make a sphere. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to go ahead and light it like this. So according to my gradient map, this should take this black and white sphere and turn the hot spots into a light yellow to white, and then it goes to like a red to that kind of like bluish shadow color.
Okay.
Okay. So there it is. See that?
Oh.
Well,
Okay.
see that transition is so stark, so it might be better to just move this over here just to see if I can control that more.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And you can see how that's creating a really nice effect. And maybe
Yeah.
what I need is like another color in between. It's like more of a transition, like make this gradient map more transitional. So I think it would be more like this. And maybe I just need to move this. Oops. And so this color might not be needed, but like you can see the effect.
Yeah.
And then what I can do here is I can essentially control how those colors interact with one another.
Hmm.
So I could see like some cool effect where like you could take one of your paintings and just give it all these different colors,
Yeah.
right? And it'll just pay attention to your dark values versus your light values.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not bad strats.
Cool. That makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah.
Cool.
Um, but I'd have never done that. But now I'm thinking it's not such a bad idea.
Yeah, I might experiment with that because that seems really fun.
Yeah. And here's the cool thing is that you can actually make that gradient map and then you can save it. But I didn't save it, but you can make and save different gradient maps,
Yeah.
right? So this was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so then you can go in here and then you can be like, all right, so anything in this range, I want it to be. So then like if you have a really good control of your values, this could be pretty powerful, which I'm demonstrating.
Yeah. Ooh.
Feels very 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Definitely. I am intrigued now. Time to experiment.
Yes. And to save, all you have to do is hit new, not save. New.
Oh, okay. Cool, cool.
Alrighty. That normal map painting though, that's where it's at. I think I have onto something. I think they'll add. Ah, man, I'm like really curious. But I must stay on task. Oh, oh my God. That's maybe it. You might have just incidentally given me the solution to this problem. if I
Oh.
if I can just figure out, okay, what does each RGB mean for normal maps? Because I know the that light purple is not. It's basically flat, like a completely flat surface. But then our red, black, and yeah, see. So you can take these. I've seen people do this though, which was they basically just grabbed. They'll just grab something like this and then just paint with these values. I think that's smarter. I think there's a way to convert your because look, okay, so basically what they're doing is you see how this is like a flat plane, but it looks like there's like lighting and shadow on it. That's what I want to do. Like I want to cheat lighting and shadow on like a 2D plane. And so I can design my characters all cool and then do
Oh.
like a normal map, which would be this, and then put on top of that, right? And so then I can
Yeah.
actually light them too. You get what I'm saying? Like I can actually light them.
Yeah.
Because right now, if I light them, they'll just be a flat like piece of paper. But if I were to, let's say, design like you know, like design like the lighting, like the way that I would want it to be lit,
Mm-hmm.
that would yield really good results. And I can just move the lighting, and it should effectively adjust according to my thing, which would be real rad. And I'll get an effect that I don't think many people have seen before, which is like a 2D painted sprite with like a 3D lighting on it, which
I did
is
see a few years ago this artist was doing like a faux 3D lighting environment on his 2D characters, and it's just like, how much time did this take to render? This is ridiculous.
yes, yes, indeed. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If I can just figure out what they're doing here to achieve this. So it seems like because it seems like this is where it's cut in half, but I mean, I don't know. I'll have to do some experiments. Yeah, so here you go. This is interesting. I don't want directly pointing. Whoa, that's a trip. But that's what I want. See how it's doing that? It's like this fake lighting on this like 2D
Yeah.
planes.
So like if you were able to achieve it, like ideally if you changed the lighting, it would change the shadows dynamically.
Yeah, on my 2D painting. That's kind of the point I'm trying
That's
to make.
crazy.
Yeah, I'll have to do more research. I don't have the solution to this problem. I'll worry about it later. This is clearly something I won't be able to solve in 5 minutes. I'm going to have to like really dig into the dark web. But like I said, I think you might have incidentally given me the solution because I think what I can do is basically create, I just need to know what are the values that are representative of what I'm looking for. See, so like if this was like the value for that midtone range, and then I basically create a scenario where it will find all the different value ranges and it will turn it into a normal map, using this gradient map. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And all I have to do is turn on that gradient map. But I just got to know how to program that gradient map to convert my textures into a normal map
Right.
that matches my aesthetic. But like I said, I can't solve that right now. And I already have one task at hand that I'm already supposed to try to figure out, and that's why I'm painting this guy. And that's to convert this into a 3D asset, which you guys will get to see. If I can stay on task, I keep getting distracted with these epiphanies of amazing, amazing ideas. Anyway. Anyway. Any other questions, friends?
Yeah, I've got a question. I kind of had it based on our the last class, but I've just been thinking about it for a while. It's so in terms of learning, I understand that it's obvious to have laser focus on one thing.
Yes.
At least it's more obvious now after this mentorship.
Good.
But my question isn't really in terms of what to learn right now. It's more in terms of what to show. So
Okay.
like, say I doing character design best. I've also done a lot of perspective drawing in terms of like room and architecture design and stuff, and I enjoy doing that. It's not like I dislike it. Is it helpful to include some of your extended skill set in your portfolio, or is it best to show laser focus in that?
The way that you should approach this question is as follows. Whatever you put in front of people is what people will hire you for. So if you put architecture designs in front of people and they see it, they might hire you to do architectural drawings. Does it make sense? So
Yeah.
if your goal was to show architectural stuff because you wanted to show that you're diverse and you want an opportunity, it might work in the way that I just suggested and said, like if you want to do characters, like that's what you really care about, you know?
Yeah.
But you don't mind doing architectures, but if you can, you want to really sit down and just work on characters. Then understand that if you show anything else, people will also hire you for that too. Okay? And if you're too busy working at some other job, then you're not busy doing the thing that you do want to do. So for instance, if you get a job working in, let's say, architecture, which would be great, let's say you do, that's less time now that you need to devote, or there's more time you have to devote into that job, less time you can devote into your craft. And when you start to work creatively, that time starts to go away.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and so I usually suggest to people that you should spend a lot of your effort, trying to figure out what you want to do, and then once you figure that out, then just stay focused on that. Like, since I'm still on the early stages of game development, I'm like still looking at multiple different engines, and I probably will until the end of the days, but it's not because I don't like the engine that I'm working with currently. I'm just always curious that there is a faster tool out there. And but I am not delusional that if I keep searching for tools and not doing stuff, then I'm just hiding from my weaknesses. And what I do is I focus on not learning the tools even. I just try to focus on learning ideals and foundations that I can take with me, because tools will always be changing, you know? So I need to change. I need to be able to change with them, and the best way to do that is having more of a skill and knowledge of the foundational information versus just tool information. So for instance, there was a time where people did all their concept art with markers, but that's not the case anymore. There was a time where people did all their concepts via Photoshop, right? Just painting. And now you can tell that's not the only way anymore, right? And then one day there's going to be another tool that's even better than all those other tools. You see what I'm saying? And those other tools that are in use aren't going to go away or anything. It's just that other tools will start to shine.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess, so just to kind of expand a little bit on my question, it makes complete sense to me in terms of maybe freelance, where you'll get a job specifically for a tool or a skill set that you have. So you'll get a job doing characters, or you'll get a job doing buildings. I guess the question stems more from when I used to work in a bank. So I knew that it was more helpful. Like I was to be hired quicker if I knew sales and processing, because even if I was hired for sales, just in case they had, they were swamped in terms of processing, they would be able to pull me over and kind of as a just in case. And I didn't know if that was the same for art departments, if it was, oh, well, this guy can do this just in case we get swamped or something.
Yeah, like I said, whatever you have reflected in your portfolio will reflect what people will hire you for. So if you demonstrate that you're a generalist, then you'll be hired as a generalist. It's
Yeah, fair enough.
it's that simple. And
All right.
a really good way of imagining this is always put yourself in the driver's seat. Imagine you're starting your own company, okay?
Okay.
And you have enough money to hire 4 artists. You need a character guy, you need an environment guy, and then you need 2 modelers who can do all sorts of models, from environments to characters to props, etc. You know?
Yeah.
So then, at least that's what you deduce. So you can, there's all kinds of combinations you can do. For instance, you can hire just one concept artist who can do generalize on lots of different things, but their skills probably reflect the generalization, right?
Yeah.
Like, would you prefer that over maybe hiring someone that's really good at their very specified thing?
Yeah, obviously you wouldn't prefer it.
Yeah, so it's all depends on your situation, right, as an employer. Because sometimes you would prefer just more of like a generalist. It doesn't matter if they're that good, right? Of course, you would want to hire a generalist that's really good. Who wouldn't? But they're probably working for the bigger companies like Valve or Riot, who do actually look for generalists, but like the best, you know?
Yeah.
Like people that, if I were to ask them what they like to do, they say, I'd like to do everything. And then they would prove it with their work. It's one
Yeah,
thing to
actually,
say you like to do everything, right? It's another
Mhm.
thing to actually demonstrate that you really mean it. Okay?
Hmm.
And so like it's one thing that I hear students say, well, I'll just do whatever I can get to get the job. And it's like that's the worst strategy to get a job. Is just do whatever. Because you'll eventually get that job and you won't like it. It just happens so often in this industry. You know? Like try to
Yeah.
get the job that you would like to do, even if it's like you might enjoy working at a much lower wage at a lower wage at a much smaller studio than at a higher wage at a bigger studio if in the first studio you were doing what you actually cared about versus the other studio you were doing something you had no interest in. Money
And actually,
doesn't
oh, sorry.
guarantee happiness is what I'm trying to get at, right? So even if you make more money, it doesn't guarantee fulfillment.
Yeah, definitely.
What were you gonna say?
So actually, yeah, I was thinking actually what you said about like the elite generalists, quote unquote.
Yeah.
I mean, just off what what we've learned in this class, if you were to get there, it seems like the best way to get there is still just to have laser focus on specific things.
Yep.
But then
Start
just
with
one at a
one, then
time.
move on to the next. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like for instance, that's kind of what I'm turning into slowly, right? But I have like 10 years, right, already in one thing.
Yeah.
And then like another 7 years in another thing. So let me give you those 2 things that I'm really good at. One is teaching, right? And the other one is obvious, which is character concept art specifically. Okay? So the teaching aspect is just a product of me teaching, right? For about 6 or 7 years. And then the character aspect of it is for me being a concept artist for about 8 to 9 years, you know? And so I've just started getting into game development probably a year ago, and I stopped for about another, or like 2 years ago, and I stopped for like a whole year because I was refocusing my structure of my own life. But now I'm back at it, my structure of my life. I'm doing things that I prefer, right? And
Yeah.
I'm getting back into it. And I'm like getting into it in a very consistent and reliable and accountable way. You know?
Yeah, that makes sense actually.
And so give me another 5 or 6 years with this game development stuff. I most likely will be an expert at probably JavaScript and web design, right? And I will also be still a really good concept artist because I'll probably still be painting the whole time. I was originally going to do most things in 3D, right? Like 3D art assets. But after watching like E3 and like even the week before that, before E3, it hit me that I'm learning another skill. That's too many things, right? And I discovered it because I was trying to make this game and I coded the game, but the only reason why the game doesn't exist right now is because I need to make all the artwork now. And I'm like, that is an enormous amount of artwork that needs to be done, specifically if it was all 3D. And it was originally. And I was like, you know what? Forget about it. This is not worth exploring right now. I prefer to just make games. I want to learn how to make good and fun games. That's all I care about, right? And I'm not going to get there at the pace that I'm looking for if I'm learning another thing, right? And so I was like, okay, what can I do? I was like, well, I can do pixel art. So that's what I did. And I was like, but I'll make my pixel art better than most because I'm already a good artist. And second, I was like, but maybe I can find something to leverage my artistic skill over other game developers. So even if my game is very simple, the fact that I have a lot more aesthetic inclination could boost the notoriety of my games, right? You take a look at a game like Angry Birds, which is not a unique design. It actually was stolen from another game design. But that game's art wasn't as appealing.
Oh.
Right? And so I'm thinking, yeah, that's something I'll do. And right now I'm in just learning mode. I have no interest in really making uh, an enormous amount of money or anything like crazy that you would expect from game devs. Because again, I've learned that that's not worth striving for. And so I'm going to strive for more not more realistic, but more like stylized games. And there's a game that just came out that I was just like, oh, amazing. Or not came out, but there was like a trailer for it. I think it's called The Last Night. It's like a mixture of 3D and pixel art. It's really cool looking.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen that. It
And I'm
looks
like,
amazing.
I was like, that's what I'm about, right? Like, I want to make stuff like that because that's something I can do. You know, I can make these 2D images, and I can probably use 3D as a tool to make these amazing 2D environments.
Mhm.
Um, but the strategy here is to make something that is really unique to what I can do and what I can provide. But like I'm telling you all this because I'm trying to explain. I too follow my own advice, because it works. Okay, like I know that if I just stay on task, um, I'll have enough time to be really good at this as well. There's plenty of time, is what I'm trying to get at. You know, it's not like back in the day where people only their lifespans were only like until their 30s, right? So if you chose to be a concept artist, then you kind of were stuck, okay, because you weren't going to live
Yeah.
any longer, right? Like this whole midlife crisis thing is like a new phenomenon because people didn't live long enough to have midlife crisis. They didn't have a midlife, you know?
So you can have a crisis, yeah.
Yeah, they were alive, they were teenagers, and then they became adults, and then they died. People live to their
Yeah.
90s now, It's like that's all new. It's a new phenomenon that humans have to deal with right now.
Yeah, I guess you're totally right. Then it just boils down to, I guess, impatience.
Yeah, people get impatient, right? And they want to like have everything right away all the time. And that's a physiological disadvantage that humans have in general. Like that's a problem that we all have. This short-sightedness is why we have someone like the president. Something's going on with my every time. There's something going on. I'm not sure. Can't put my finger on it. But like my eraser thing is switching out, and I have no idea why. Like there's a hotkey that's being activated, and every time I press it, it's like going through my tools presets. Not
You've
sure what
paid
it
your
is. Huh?
You've paid your electricity bill?
Uh-oh. Yeah, see, look, it did it. Like, what the hell is this?
What?
It changed the eraser again.
I'm not sure what kind of tablet you have, but sometimes I'll accidentally be pressing one of the buttons on mine and it'll make it sort through my brushes instead of just like zooming in or whatever I want it to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'm not worried about it right now.
No, but that makes a lot of sense. Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, totally. Let's see if we can just get this to work. And then I'm going to do a demo explaining my paint process as I end the class. The next 45 minutes, yo. Any other questions, though, while we're waiting for me to experiment with this? And a side note, kind of like a anecdote to kind of what's happening here. Like, this is how I work, man. Like, this is like, if I want to figure something out, you guys are experiencing it right now. Like, in fact, the amount of time I spent painting this dude was just because of a product of just me talking. Okay? I would have not done this. I would have not spent this much time. I would have drawn like a circle and a rectangle, you know, and like paint them in and fill them in properly, like have them have all the right parameters that I need to test against, you know, and then move on with my life. But because I'm trying to do a demonstration as well, I want to make sure that you guys see like a little bit of painting, and then I'm going to do another one after this. I wanted to kind of make at least something worth looking at or watching me do. So what am I testing right now? Well, what I'm going to be testing is simple. Let us do a 1024 by 1024. Okay, let's put this in here. Whoops. And then let's grab this. Let's put this in here. Oh, what the heck? And then let's just go ahead and increase this resolution. All right, let's do this. I accidentally added more detail there than I want. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. And then let's go ahead and make the head match the proportion. And let's make sure that these are on like a rectangular grid so that they don't necessarily affect each other. Okay. This is fine for now. And just for kicks and giggles, I would have showed you what I would have done, like how far I would have tested the limits. It would have been just like that. Like this is the arm. And then I would have just called it a day from there. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and save. Well, let's go ahead and reduce this so there's some buffering, some padding. Let's go ahead and save this to the desktop. Call this test. And then we'll save it again. We'll call it PNG. And if you ever like look through my recycling bin, if I don't recycle my recycling bin every week, right? Every week I usually just empty it out. But if you were to go through it, you would see like an endless graveyard of files named test underscore test 2 underscore 3 test box test shape test form test this, an endless endless graveyard of files that were once called tests. You know? Like even with my coding, I believe I have 2 test grounds. So let's go. I need to look at that later, so I'm not going to get rid of that. See, testing grounds. I have testing grounds here. This is animated textures for learning, because I was trying to learn how to get animated textures. Yeah, it's a little crash dummy too. It's cute, huh? It's just so I go in there and I'll just erase everything and then I'll remake everything in there. And then what I learned there, I take it to the other games that I think are worth making. Yeah, see, Ultramech Showdown, I might just delete this. It's just taking up space. Yeah, Ultramech Showdown, I'll have to come back to you some other day. Let's just do a hard delete. Animated textures, mother and child. I think that's also going to have to be a hard delete. I mean, it was a pretty cool experience, but it was my first time in Play Canvas, and it was bad. All right, so here's my strategy. I'm going to test this idea. So I'm going to make a plane, but I'm going to adjust the amount of, let's do 20. I think 20 would be good. Apply. That looks like a little amount. Let's do 30. Apply. Well, let us go to the hypershade and let us change the color. And let's get the file. And the file name, as you guys will suspect, test PNG. So there's like some weird jittering stuff here, but I'm not worried about that. Oh, there's something, some black going on there. This is complete failure. Why is it all black right there? But yet, in the, maybe it's because it's like not 100% opaque. All right, well, irregardless. So there it is, right? So this is what I was going to test. I was going to go ahead and select the faces. I was going to select all the faces that affect this guy. All right? And this doesn't have to be perfect. It could be like pixel artish looking. At least I don't think it is. Well, that's why I had to test it. Yeah, that looks fine. And then I'm going to duplicate that. No object to duplicate. Okay, let's do this. Extract faces. Bam. Yes. Let's go to object mode. Yeah. So now I have the face, right? So you'll notice that the pivot is not an ideal area. So let's just move this back there. Actually, let's do that. Let's just put this at a hard 1. It's going to go up 0.2. So that way it's not too far away. Okay, now how do I recenter the pivot? Mesh, I think it's, reminds me of my 3D animations. The struggle. But it's worth it, man. Especially if I can pull off what I want to do. This is going to be amazing. I think I remember adjusting the pivot in one of these options. There's a faster way. I can just press insert and then I can just move it this way. And I'll move it right where I think it needs to be. Like this is where I believe it should be rotating from. And then press insert. Okay, now let's go ahead and hide that. And then let's go back to face modes. What's going on here? Why is it all weird? Oh, it's because it's like there's two of them. So let's delete that. Oh, no wonder. What happened? You said you're so lost? Who said that? Who asked it? Who said they were so lost?
That's me.
Yeah, well, think about it. Like, why would you be lost? What would be the symptoms of your lostness?
Because I just don't know how 3D programs work.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
It's not very complicated.
No. Yeah.
It's so the question, a better question usually to ask yourself, it's not so much about like, oh my gosh, you know, it's more about like, do you even want to, do you even care? Like, if you don't care, then who cares? Just don't worry about it. You don't need to learn 3D. I'm serious.
No, I actually really do want to because I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like
So,
it's this
okay,
is
so then
fun.
that's different. So if you want to,
Yeah.
then you gotta go, you gotta go study it.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks,
I'm
man.
fully accepting of my lostness. It's just amusing to me at the moment. I do need to go and start learning the basics. I tried messing around with a 30-day trial of ZBrush once, and I was like, this is awesome. This is the funnest thing. It's all messed up now somehow, and I don't know how to fix it. So I definitely want to add that to my learning repertoire, but I have other things I want to learn first.
Oh, see, look at this. Like, this is what confuses me when it gets like real. It pays attention to what you've done last, and I don't like that. And so I'm gonna go ahead and start getting this mother effer out of here. I think you hit the hold shift. I forget how you like move. Or was it middle mouse button? Yeah, it was middle mouse button. And then get this mother effer out of here. No, I don't want to put in side camera.
By the way, like regarding the 3D, is it something super important to have in your skill sets? Like, do you
I'd
use it
say
very
yes.
often?
You should definitely learn it, right? Because there's so many tools available. You can find one that sings to you. Do you understand my point, my argument here? Like,
Yeah,
you can
pretty
find
much.
one that like that resonates with your ambitions. You just got to stick with it. That's all. So check this out. Okay. So now let's go to. Now you check this out. Now you check this out. Okay. So now we're in an orthographic view. Okay. So we don't get disoriented with all the 3Dness. So I could put this here. Okay. So this is 3D, right? So this means that obviously I can move things in a Z depth, but these are planes that I can actually affect. You know what I'm saying? Or actually, let's go to vertices. Vertices would be better. So then if I do B, how do I decrease the soft brushness? Modify into attribute editor. Tessellation attributes, smooth. I have to go look this up. But basically, what I was trying to do right now, which would have been epic, but I just forgot where it's at, is that you can do like soft selection. So then when I move this, see how it's like stretching my painting a bit?
Yeah.
So now imagine if I can actually do a softer selection so it's more organic. I can create this illusion of it turning, like the head turning by skewing it dynamically. You know? But that's not, that's some high level stuff that I don't need to learn just yet. This is what I'd rather do, which is that I'm going to grab these two. I'm going to make uh, a freeze frame. Then I'm going to go here. I'm going to go ahead and rotate this. And we can Yeah, we can still rotate in Z depth to create, you know, some sense of like his head's turning a little bit. You see that? That's pretty cool, right? Oh, you guys hear my little baby? Yeah? Nothing you can do about it. Better just enjoy the cuteness. Oh, my little boy. Oh, my little baby boy. And then I can like maybe like stretch it and move it. And what's cool is now, look at that, right? Okay, and so why is this cool? Or can I do something like this in like Flash or like I don't know, just anything, right? Can't I just do this in Flash or some other software, right? And just like print out the animation, like play blast the animation, like get the PNGs of each frame and then make a sprite sheet. Well, that's what I did before. I already know how to do that. I already have a strategy and a tactic to do that and do that well. Okay? But the thing is, with a 3D object, I can take pieces off and swap them back out with a whole different model. And then all I need, or not even like swap out the model actually, I can do switch out the model, but I can also switch out just the texture. So basically I can have another texture that, watch, we'll just do something like this, just real quick. We'll save this. Or no, let's do something a little bit more cool. Something a little bit more contextually based. Like he's got red on. And his helmet is also red. Or a shade of color. Okay? I'm going to save this as a PNG. Not Pixar. Does Pixar have literally their own file type in Photoshop? Is that for real? God damn, that's dope. What does that mean? What is the Pixar? What, Pixar? Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and create a new material. Assign, actually, let's go to the hypershade. And so let's create maybe we can just duplicate this, right? Can I just duplicate this? Yeah, the only thing I don't like about Maya is it's not as intuitive as I would hope. All right, let's just make a new font altogether. Font 2. And then we'll just move all this information. All right, so now what I want to do is go to color, file, pick this, go to test PNG2, which is the different color one. So now it's like a weird red-blue version, right? So now I can say, you know, in the game, I can code something like assign a new material to the helmet. You understand? Like, so I can be like, you know, you got a new power up. I want your character to level up his helmet now. Like, so he looks like he has a new helmet. He looks cooler. Make sense? And so I can do that in Maya to demonstrate kind of the point I'm making, but in the game engine, I can also do it dynamically. So see, only the head now is blue because it's its own model. Make sense?
Oh, yeah.
And so the reason why I'm testing this is because I had this theory in my mind, right, or this hypothesis in my mind. I was like, I can totally do like swappable armor sets and equipment in 2D because that's very difficult to do, right? That's very, very difficult because usually you would have to just make a whole new painting, right? Or you would have to have very few pieces that are in your control can be changed. But with this, even if I had like literally 20 pieces of the character to animate, like, you know, separate all his arms, his different joints, in theory, I can change out any one of those by just changing its materials, which is very cheap because I can save these PNGs at a very low resolution right? Like how much is this PNG at? Yeah, it's like 600 kilobytes. That's like nothing, right? And I was rendering them out at a size that might not be conducive to the actual size that you would see it in game. Like maybe this character is much smaller, right? So maybe 1024 would be just fine, you know, or maybe it can be even smaller than that, maybe 512, right? And if I save this out, like I don't need to have all that resolution. I can consolidate. Okay, and so now if we look, it's only 89 kilobytes. I basically took out 500 more kilobytes off of it. And it's kilobytes, which, you know, back in the 70s would have been a big deal. Okay. But now in the modern day, you know, my game that you guys might have played, um, a game called 10 Seconds, is only 2 megabytes or like 2.3 megabytes. And that's because the song is about 1.5 megabytes or something like that. The song is the largest file in the whole game. It's like, because I wanted it to sound cool. And I think that in all my games, my sound's going to take most of the space, you know, because I want that contrast of low fidelity art with high quality music, you know? And so that test was successful. It's exactly as I predicted. Right? I didn't figure out soft selection, but that's not a big deal. Like even if like, in fact, I just realized like having all these multiple planes would only be useful if I had the soft selection idea, right? But you know, I might not even worry about that. I might just keep it with like the basic like, and then just ooh, wait, what is this about? What? What? Yeah, where is the soft selection toggle? Vertexes. Smooth, tangent space, mesh control, tessellation attributes. I always thought it was like right here, the soft selection. They might have moved it somewhere else. You know, it's wasting my time just doing that. Soft selection, Maya. Change the size of this oscillation and fall off. Very first one. B plus drag. So if I hold B and drag. Oh, what? The internet is amazing. Internet's amazing. Internet's amazing. So now I can do like some really tweaked out, like customizable. Oh, but see, that's the thing. Okay, let's do this one test, and I'll do a demo for you guys in the next 30 minutes. I'll talk about painting. Know what you're doing. Okay, what I need to do first is I need to, all right. So in theory, those vertices should, yep, those vertices should move too. Damn, dude. That's kind of OP. That's kind of real OP. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not very good because I didn't try. But the fact that I can do it, holy jeebers. This is game changing. Let's watch this. Oh, yeah. Don't save. There's no reason to save. And say goodbye to tests. There's no reason to save all that stuff either. Mission accomplished. Text succeeded. like I said, I wouldn't have done all of these. I wouldn't have done as much as I did here. I wouldn't have made this whole cool character. But I'm kind of glad I did because then I had some context to kind of warp when I changed the selection, you know? So it helps because I could see how I was effectively dimensionizing, and there was something there that I could use, you know? But I'm actually pretty well versed in Maya animation, especially super basic Maya animation. I used to do it a lot in school. And so I think I can get away with Photoshop, Maya, Play Canvas. I can create all my art assets and animate them and do some really cool stuff. I think the next step would be create sprite animations for um, the effects, but we'll see. Because their particle system is not very good, or at least not as good as I would hope. All right, so let's talk about some painting now, and then take on some more questions. All right, so I talked about earlier, I think it was with Bobby, that I am pretty consistently good at painting, right? Specifically like robots and absolutely like monsters. And I'm only getting better too at painting them because I paint them almost every time for class. I do them for my live streams and I paint them for myself. And one thing that I know really well is to stay consistent with my values. Now, a lot of times when people paint, they don't think about their values too much. They focus on their technique, or they have other things in their mind, or maybe they don't have things in their mind, so that's why they're struggling. So whenever I was practicing and trying to, like, how did I get to that point, right? What I did a lot of was just this. I just would sit there and just paint something, and I'll just try to figure it out. Remember how you guys just saw me test with Maya and 3D stuff? Like, I learned something. I think you guys learned something too from watching it, right? And so when you guys see a game come out by me and it has some reasonable animation and has some sort of uh, like amazing feat of like the normal mapping, lighting and on it, and you can see the effect of that, and it's impressive to you somehow, right? You guys will know how I got there. It won't be a mystery to you guys anymore. It will be a mystery to, yeah, it'll be a mystery to all these other people that might be like, what did you do differently? How did you do that, right? But to you guys, you'd be like, oh, I remember him doing it. Yeah. And the secrets wasn't anything crazy, right? It was just me sitting down and rendering. And so what I did was I did a lot of stuff like this. I'll just sit here and just practice, just like, can I paint an arm in like 5 minutes? Can I paint like, can I paint something, make it look, um, can I add something to this? And then can I make it feel metallic? Like add some trimming. And I'll just practice this. And I say, what is it that works and what doesn't work? Right? How can I Yeah, so your ed control, right, Leo? Like, how do you get better at that? Well, what I discovered is that you just don't make as many mistakes as I mentioned before. And how do you practice making very limited amount of mistakes? Give yourself very strict objectives. Like, for instance, try to do a painting with only 100 strokes and keep count. And every stroke counts. And then you'll start to do stuff where you'll discover, well, this is technically one stroke. I haven't lifted my pen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because if I add those in, they have to count. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Do you see what I'm getting at? Because when you give yourself strict guidelines, you ain't going to play around, you know? You're not going to be doing silly stuff like this and give like 100 strokes just to render out a corner, you know? Like, just paint that fucking corner right the first time. You understand? And it's hard. It's very difficult. The reason why it looks easy is just because, like I've told you many, many times, I've been doing this for almost, not almost, I've been doing this for a decade now. And I just practice and I test and I test and I practice and I practice and I test and I experiment. I go online, I read, I take classes, I talk to other people, ask questions. I never am afraid of looking stupid. I always am prepared to admit or concede that I might not know what I'm talking about, even if I think I'm onto something. I always back down from being defensive. Like I realize, like when some people get overtly critical of like my game project, for instance, I was getting back to that critical, like I would get to that defensiveness again. And it wouldn't be like, it's not a bad one. Like I'm pretty, I pull back. I don't like get real aggro or anything. But I usually will pull back very quickly too. I'll write down or say what I have to say. And then I think about it, it's like, but maybe, you know, let me think about this. Maybe there is something I can do to fix this problem. And so, yeah, I just adjust these things. And what I've discovered, yeah, go ahead. Oh, wow, that's cool, son. You want to take them out? Okay, hold on. Let me help you. Muscles. There you go. Oi, oi, oi. Um, yeah, so like I just practice quite often, right? And I don't stop and give up too easily. And like I said, when I get critical of other people's feedback, I usually just think about it more afterward they say it, and I think, how can I fix that? For instance, there was one consistent feedback that people say that the restarting is very jarring, and this isn't like the first time I heard it, I thought, yeah, I agree with that. And the second time, I was like, okay, clearly this is a problem, and people are getting jarred by it. And then third, and then the fourth, and I think today was the fifth time I heard it from somebody. And so I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm going to really make an attempt to fix this. Another thing, people said that the controls are a little too slidey, and that maybe we should be able to adjust that. And so I can now because the the devs have not only given me vital feedback, they've literally altered their tool so that I can actually do the thing that I was hoping to do. And they went even further, and they like you guys saw earlier, they gave me a code, right? They like wrote down, like, look, I said, oh, that makes a big difference. I'll play with the values. Not sure what you mean by the math, though. I'll have to ponder. Unless you can elaborate with code that I can try to decipher. That's how I have been learning mostly, just decipher all this shiz. And so that's what he did. He said, this is pseudocode. This is not like real code. And like, this isn't real code that you can just put in. This is just fake. He just wrote it in. I know what that means, you know, but he's just like, he's given me information. I can now look at this and say, okay. Ooh, ah, all right. All right, all right, all right, all right. And then he's explaining it to me. He's trying to give me as much information. See, I have to really look at this one. Now you have this. You might try this. Yeah, see? This is good. Oh, Oh shit, son. I just read this and I get it. But I have to read this later. But like, yeah, this is, I'm gonna have to try this. Clever girl. Clever girl. Nah, that's, oh my God. Of course. Of course. But see, this is what I'm saying. I'm a complete newbie. Like none of this is like I don't know any of all this stuff, right? I'm just still kind of like I know how to apply force, right? So that's all I did. That's like the only. It's like if I'm trying to put together a sentence to try to explain to you that that like here's a good example, like nuance, right? Like if I don't know enough nuance, so let's say I'm just kind of hungry, like I'm just sort of hungry, like I want to get a snack, like hey, let's go get a snack. Like that's nuanced enough for you to understand. Oh, AJ wants to get something to eat, but not a lot, right? But if all the words that I had was starving, like that's the only vocabulary that I can use at the moment because that's all I've learned. I'd be like, man, I'm starving, and you're like, oh, dude, let's go. Like, yeah, I'm really starving. Like I'm starving, and then you're like, okay, let's go, let's get you some food. And then you take me to like, this huge buffet and I'm like, no, dude, I'm just starving. And you're like, yeah, I know. That's why I brought you here. Like, no, no, no. Like, this is too much food. I'm just starving. I just want, like, how else can I say this? You know? And that's kind of what I feel like I'm right now with like code. Like, I know very little. And so the code knowledge that I do know, I'm working with. But as I learn all these little nuanced things, like he just demonstrated it, and I'm like, oh, of course, that makes way more sense. Um, it's going to add up, and one day I'm going to be really well versed. I'm excited. I'll be able to make all sorts of stuff. But right now, not too many things. Yeah, absolutely, and I'm very aware of that. And I think you guys have to understand that's very like I know I'm using the code stuff as an example because it's very practical and very contextually related to what I'm doing at the moment. But it all applies, man. It all applies to even like art. Like you guys just don't have the vocabulary, and so you got to go and obtain it. You don't know how to explain to me your ideas yet, as best as you possibly could. So go learn. I do. I have real good. Specifically, again, I have to be very cautious of what I say because I am not an amazing uh, vehicle designer or even an environment designer. I can do some basic environments, but characters, dude, all day. All day. So with um, character design and good painting, all you got to do is have really rad um, forms. You have to have really good forms to pull off a decent painting. And the best way to have good forms to have a good understanding of what those forms are. It's not lighting that's doing it. It's the lighting of the forms that's making it look impressive. And then once you have a good sense of that, then the next step is to know what you're trying to paint. And I've taught you guys that pretty well. And the strategy is usually just tons and tons of research and iteration upon iteration upon iteration until your eyes bleed.
Just to clarify, by lighting of the forms, you mean like what a form would be like on an overcast day or something?
No, I mean like, are you rendering a cube or a cylinder?
Oh,
So
okay.
like when people are designing their characters, they have all these like random shapes that look really cool, but then when they go to light them, they don't know the forms. They don't know if they're lighting a cylinder or a pyramid or a cone, you know? So what ends up happening is like they'll have this like really interesting shape like this, let's say, right? And they'll render it like this. They'll kind of trace the edges with light, and then they'll trace the other edges with shadow. So it looks something like this.
Uh,
Where I would see this differently, I would be like, oh no, it's more like this. You see the difference, right? because I see it as like a three-dimensional form. Make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
That's what makes it impressive. The shape can be as obscure and random as crazy as you'd prefer, but if you can't see the form in it, then it's going to hurt you. So that's why I usually have sometimes when I see students that really struggle with that, I usually have them do like this, like old, traditional just drawing of like geometric shapes over everything, you know? And it may seem childish and it may seem like you're an amateur if you do that. No, that's the steps needed to see it, then let's do it.
Mm.
In fact, I know a lot of really good artists that don't do that enough. And then that's the reason why their artwork doesn't ever elevate to the level they could for that reason alone.
So would that be a good exercise to just draw a random shape and then light it like a 3D
Absolutely.
form?
Absolutely.
Cool.
As long as you're exercising. Yeah, and it's very difficult. That's the challenging part. It's not challenging to understand lighting. That's not challenging. It's challenging to understand what to light or how you're lighting it. For instance, if I had a cube, whoops, right? And I drew these letters, which side is being lit?
A is getting the direct light.
Yep, lighting. Congratulations. I'll send you a certificate in the mail. But see, that's how you should light it, right? Like the way I just did it. Maybe like these sides get like some of the bounce, what have you, right?
Yeah.
But this is what I see happen a lot, which is people, again, will trace the corner.
Huh.
That's not painting the form as it is. That's tracing the shape. Shapes are flat, forms are not. Got it? You start with shapes to simplify the forms. And once you see the shapes and how they work with one another, convert them to forms. Does all make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. If I can ask another quick question then.
Yeah, go for it.
So a lot of your paintings will have characters with like sci-fi armor or something, like a lot of detail. How do you build up to that knowledge of, it's almost like you're implying detail in a lot of ways, but
It's
I'm
like
not
what I
sure.
just demonstrated actually with the 3D stuff, right? Like I had it at a 2048 texture resolution, right? But I was smart enough to understand that I don't really need it at that high, especially if I want to save space. Okay? It's that consolidation that you have to consider. Like, yeah, I can zoom in here and like just really go to town and draw like each and every pore, or I can just draw it from afar and imply those pores, right? And just the best way to practice that is doing it constantly, right? So then you can see when you can leave your painting. Like I know that as long as I nail this right here, like I know that if I can nail these little nubs, meaning if don't do this, right? Like actually make sure that I draw each and every one to the exact shape that I intended it to be, right? Watch. Oops. Right? And see, I have to make my brush much smaller to get it to be more precise, right? And then do some on the other side. That I can just then blur this right where they meet the other value. And then bam, it looks like this kind of weird crab mandible thing, right? Immediately.
Yeah.
And I can compound that if I create a fall off of a shadow, like an ambient occlusion pass. But again, I have to nail like right where the shadow meets that edge. So that way I don't lose that edge that I originally did. Like, see how I just did that edge right there? did it perfectly, so I don't have to redo it again. Make sense? And I look at it as it is. Does it look like the thing that I'm looking for? Right now I'm trying to make wrinkly skin. How do I do that? Cross-hatching is a really good technique. How do I learn that? By cross-hatching a lot. You know, and I just, like, as you do more painting, like I always tell people, you know, even if you're not studying appropriately and you're not practicing the way that you should, or the ways that will really optimize your growth, right? Like, even if you don't do any of that, right? Like, if you do everything wrong, you'll just stumble upon these things on accident, just by the fact that you're putting a sheer amount of extensive practice. Okay? It's like, yes, there's ways to kind of exponentially make it better, and I've given you that tool, right? Which is stay on task, don't get distracted, pay attention a lot, pay attention to everything that you do as much as you possibly can. Okay? And then you'll be able to catch on to little things that you do well and things that you do terribly wrong, and what you should do to improve them.
All right, cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope that helps you out, bud. Any other questions, friends?
I have a question. What are some of your favorite events to go to in the U.S. for like networking for with other artists?
GDC, CTN, and Comic-Con. That's it. There's probably others that I can't think of on top of my head, but those ones definitely stand out.
Cool.
Yeah, those
Have you ever
ones
had
are
like
epic.
booths open at those, just or
I
do you
had
just
one at
like?
CTN, yeah, but I don't
Yeah.
think I'll ever have one again. It's just a lot of work.
It seems like a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's worth it, especially if you have something to sell.
Yeah.
But it's like I don't want to do that. But I have friends who make like a really good living off of just going to cons and selling stuff.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on just a second. A little bit longer. This is the class where they're powered down, remember? Wait, is he just chilling there? Yeah, give me like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Or I can just hold him. Just get him dressed and I can hold him. I'll just finish this painting a little bit. I think I can do it one-handed. It'll be a little bit slower. Anywho, do you guys have any other questions, friends? Wait, what happened? Yeah, cause 2 hands is too easy. Wait, what's this? What are you guys talking about? Leo, elaborate what you guys are talking about. Oh, I see. You're talking about myself. Like, because 2 hands is too easy. Well, you only really need one hand anyways to draw, right? Like, because the other hand is just for hotkeys and stuff like that. It's just that if I want to switch my hotkeys, like, it won't be as fluid as if I had all my, like, both of my hands, right? Because then I can just flip to the hotkeys much easier. Now, alternatively, what I'm going to have to do is just manually pick the um, brushes and stuff like that. It's funny, this morning I was like programming and stuff and holding my baby at the same time. I want to try to invent like some sort of like laptop case or holder that your baby can just chill in while you're doing stuff on your computer. But like your baby's like in your lap. think I'll make millions off of that. Any final questions on the home stretch?
Yeah, I have one.
Go
Very
ahead.
quick one. It's I see a lot of when I look on jobs on ArtStation or other places, I see a lot of companies that ask like experience, like you need 2-3 years in a company or ship games that you do concept art for them. And I see a lot of people, well, not maybe a lot, but I see people that like get hired instantly, like when they go out of school or they just don't have experience at all. I get that they're really good and they probably they don't need, but like, does it happen often, or it's really rare and you just have to be extremely good in order to get to this?
It's not extremely rare. People hire, but again, the way you should think about this, and don't get me wrong, there is instances where people didn't have enough experience and they didn't get a job, right? That's definitely a thing, right? But a lot of what your question is doing is it's just, again, it's a little bit more distracting, right? It's irrelevant is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
Like, why is it irrelevant? Because let's say it is rare that people get hired because they're really good. Okay? Let's just say that. So how does that affect you?
No, nothing. I
Right?
just wanted to know, like,
Yeah,
if you really
so
need
then
experience
now
or...
let's flip it around. Let's say the companies only hire people that have experience. How does that affect you?
Well, then I first need to get experience.
Do you see what I'm saying? Like, in this scenario, it's just a distracting variable. Like, the only things that you should care about and focus on are just having quality work and putting your stuff out there. Because that's the only thing you can control. Because there's going to be a scenario that's going to be true in every instance. There might be a time you apply to a job, you're not a very experienced or good, and they're not going to give you the job. That's probably the most rational experience you'll have, right? But there'll be other experiences where you have great work, right? You have amazing work, and the company loves your work, but they don't have any positions, right?
Yeah.
Or there's a thing where they love your work, they have positions, but they are truly looking for only experience, and you don't have it. There's companies that don't care that your work's not that good, and they don't care that you don't have experience, and they hire you. You understand? Like, all those circumstances could be true, but the only thing you can control is if your work is any good, and if people know that you even exist.
Yeah.
Those are the only things you can control. And so those are the only things you should focus on. Make sense? And all the other stuff you can predict that there's always going to be a circumstance where your prediction of it is right, right? There's always like is it going to be harder to work freelance because of this? Yes. Is it because of that? Yes. Or because of this? Yes. You know, there's all these different variables that could be true for every instance. And like I can tell you a story in almost all situations. Oh, here you go, sweetheart. Sweetheart, I'll hold him. Oh, okay. I'm gonna hold my baby for a little bit. But there's experiences all in all certain circumstances, right? And so I usually tell people that when you're working on, oh, that's all right. Hey, little baby. Hey, little baby. You guys hear him sucking on his little pacifier? Yeah, I was like, sometimes I just stop painting and I just talk. Hey, sweetheart, can you close the door? Unlike the baby, which I don't mind, he's crying. The bigger ones, though, I do mind. They should know better. Okay. All right. Let's see if I can just add detail with this one value. All right. So what I am getting at is like, in most situations, these companies, whenever they're like hiring, like the one thing that they really only care about, it's all right, little guy. The only thing that I really care about is if your work is really, really good. You know?
Yeah.
Like, let me tell you a story. When I was working at Sony, there was 2 applicants, okay, that were going to get a job working at the company. And I was in the meeting when we were reviewing their work, okay? So I got to experience what it was like in the room where people were actually going to hire and bring people on board, okay? And what ended up happening was that we looked at both of their work, and they both were phenomenal artists, right? These are really good artists. And they both of them were just coming straight out of school, okay? So we clearly didn't care that they didn't have any experience because their work was just good enough. It demonstrated that they can do what we would ask them to do, right? Paint cool images. That's all that matters, okay? The nuances of working for a game studio is not that difficult to adjust to, okay? And
Yeah.
so we looked at all the stuff. We were like really impressed. One guy had like really amazing line art and technical skill. Like he's really good technically. So if we wanted him to do more technical images and whatever, he would be perfect. And we did need that. But the other guy had like a lot more painterly and more inspirational kind of work, like story kind of driven illustrations, right? Which was also very useful. It's very useful for the game designers to see that and be like, yeah, that would be a cool game mechanic, that we can design based off of that artwork that we're inspired by, right? That's like 2 roles that concept art does. It inspires, but also gives pragmatic solutions to problems that are hard to think about without seeing them, right? And so they both had something that we wanted, and they both we felt were equally as good. And so the producers like looked at the budget, and he's like, I think we can technically hire both of them. And so then my game director was like, if we can hire both of them, let's just hire both of them. And he's like, all right, let me look into it. And he's like, yeah, otherwise, like, we'll come back and we'll meet again. But if we can get both, let's just get both. And so then the meeting was adjourned. We went our separate ways. We went back to work, and we hired both of them. And they both worked, and they're both amazing. They were great artists, right? And they did extraordinarily well. They just came right out of art school, and they both did fine. And it didn't matter what art school they went to either. That's another thing.
Yeah.
One went to Art Station, Art Center, which is like a very notable and very reputable art school, right?
Yeah.
And another one was from Otis, which not so much. Okay. And the people that I worked with, 2 of them were from Art Center. The other 2 were from Otis. And myself and my another colleague of mine, we were both Art Institute dropouts. You see, like we all worked with each other, and we all came from different backgrounds. I had only 1 year of experience in the game industry, and it was for a small, little, like, very crummy little studio, right? Where my other colleagues had many experiences working on other games and stuff like that. And yet I was amongst these giants. It was crazy. And I was able to work alongside them. That's the next best thing about it, right? And the reason why is because I just practiced and painted a lot. I lived in Southern California, so I was able to go to these events often as I could,
Yeah.
And they found out about my work because it was out there. People found it, and they brought me in.
So you just have to do like really good work and it work out.
Yeah,
I kind of knew that, but
it's
just that.
here's
Yeah.
the thing. Like it's a beautiful simplicity. It's an honorable goal. There's nothing superficial about it, right? I think earlier they were asking like I think it was Adam, right? Like was asking, if it's best to have diversity because as a banker it was very useful, right? And like the point I want to make about all of this, like all these different kinds of questions are very good and they're important to think about, but they're distracting is what I'm trying to get at, okay? Because sometimes they can lead to discouragement, and that discouragement can then lead to procrastination. Do you understand? It trickles down
Yeah.
because you're like, man, I don't have experience. Like, what's the point? That can enter your head, and I'm sure it has. It enters all of our minds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what I mean by it's a distraction because you know better. You told me you just admitted that you know better, but yet these things will still get in your mind, you know? And I'm trying to give you the hindsight because I've been in this industry for a while now, right? And I've seen many other artists and I've met many other artists. You're fine. If you keep working at it, you'll do just fine. It'll just take a while, right? It takes time. Everything takes time, but it will be inevitable, okay? Because all the people that I know that work in the industry that are really exceptional and amazing artists, we all have this one inside joke. And I'm telling you what it is. I'm giving you that inside joke, which is it's not that hard. It's just hard to stay committed.
Yeah,
Okay?
like everything else.
Yeah, just like everything else, absolutely. And like I said, this is a career which is honorable because you can't fake it. You can't like fake on your resume that you're a good artist. You know?
Mm.
You can't say, yeah, I know my stuff, and then go to work and then not do anything. Okay? Or not be able to keep the quality up. I actually have stories where people got hired and then they were not qualified, but because they lied, they cheated. Basically, they cheated their portfolio. You know, they like took images from the internet, put it in their portfolio. They deceived the client to think that that was their artwork, and when they had to actually work, you know, they weren't capable, obviously, right? And the client caught on real quick. Okay, so don't even be afraid of that. If you get hired, that it will be stressful and there'll be pressure, especially if you're really nervous. You know, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But oh, sorry, my wife. But like you, if you get hired, like if someone hires me, like only like I think one time did I get hired for something that I don't actually do a lot of. Right, someone hired me to do like a lot of these like obscure environment designs, and I was like, yeah, but you know, I just do mostly characters though, right? So yeah, and your characters like have like this really like unique sense to them, and like I want that in my environments. I want you to portray that in your concepts. And I thought, all right, I'll try. And I did terribly, right? Because I don't really have that skill set. And like I even told him, I was like, you know, technically I'm just not that good at this stuff. And you should understand that and respect that. And so we just kind of cut it off from there because I just was like, yeah, this is not working out, you know? And yeah, I was trying to paint a little bit right now. Then my son started crying. He's like real comfortable with my patting his little booty. My other hand. Yeah, I'm keep on petting it. Don't worry, little dude. I'm right here. Um, so that makes sense, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, don't let these things get you twisted up, okay? Because they will. They'll definitely get you all like unfocused for a bit and get you distracted and make you give up or try different things if you keep letting this stuff build. And
No, it's not gonna happen.
okay, yeah, I doubt that you'll give up, but there will be days where you won't work as hard as you would prefer.
Yeah.
That's the kind of point I meant, right? I think you're on it. Like you I think everybody in this class is pretty engaged. Um, but my point is if you want to keep that engagement high, this is how you do it. You just keep to the facts. Fact
Yeah.
is, if you work every day, even if it's only for an hour, you're going to get better. The fact is that you don't have any control if an employer wants to hire you, even if they love your work. Okay? Um, the fact is that you are in control of who can see your work and how they can see your work. So do something about that. You know?
Yeah.
But you're not in control if the market's into your style of art or if they're not. But you should stick with it because you can control that. There's this really great story I was just watching of the developers who made the game Owlboy. They made this game for 9 years. And it's a commercial success. It did really well. Thank God, right? But like the story is really dramatic, right? And they were talking about how like they saw like genres of styles like go in and out. They saw how Pixar was in and then went out and in and out, and they were always like themselves freaking out, right? Because they're thinking like when we release our game, will people be even into this stuff, right? because they went through like 3 generations of Xbox, or not 3, like 1 generation of like consoles too, and they're like, they were using XNA, which was like an engine that was proprietary for the first Xbox, I believe, or not the first Xbox 360. But then it got discontinued because they moved on to Xbox One. So they were using an outdated game engine. And so they're just like, oh my gosh, like how's this going to work? You know?
Yeah.
And, but they kept at it. They kept at it, kept at it. And then, they eventually, got a little bit more disciplined and say, we got to have a day that we're just going to just ship this game. We have to, otherwise we're going to kill ourselves. And that's what they did, and they made a good game, and people loved it. It's a critically acclaimed game. It sparked the new evolution, a new genre called high bit games, meaning like there's 8-bit games that are like retro gaming. This is high bit gaming, which means that the artwork is a little bit higher fidelity. It's as if like if Nintendo 64 didn't go to 3D and it stayed with 2D, right? It's cool. It's a cool genre. I'm learning about it because I'm interested in this stuff now, right? Like I'm really engaged in game development. But like listening to their story and listening to their consistent perseverance is inspiring, right? Because it inspires me to know that it's universally true for almost all things. Like even if I don't make any good games for like a few years, or games that don't do any well or don't do well at all, it's fine. I got time, right? I'm patient. And that fact is what drives me to do many things. I know a lot of other people just aren't as patient, and that's why they don't do as well. They're always looking for that quick fix, And so you guys should take that advice very seriously, because this is one real good piece of advice. Because a lot of people just are not that hindsighted. And I'm not trying to say that I'm like that with every little thing. I'm just saying, especially whenever it comes to like a task that I want to do well at, I usually stay pretty consistent. And I try to avoid these distractions. They come and go, though. Don't think that I'm immune to distractions. They happen for me as well. Like I said, like this morning, I was looking at different game engines, seeing if there was an alternative that I can like start to really master as well, like alongside Play Canvas. But then I was like, no, I should really just maximize what I can from this one software, right? I should just be asking more questions, even if I annoy these guys,
Yeah.
And apparently they're not annoyed. They're like actually more inspired because they got to play my game and they're like, this is really cool, They actually liked it, which I think gave me some leverage. And I told them that my strategy is to populate their reputation by making good products. And then that way more people use their software, and then when more people use it, they make more money, and when they make more money, they'll be more engaged, and maybe I can get some sort of angle where they reach out to me as someone that can help consult what they can add as features, right? Because I can't control whether that will happen in the future, but I can control whether I can talk to these guys and be nice to them and encourage them. And that's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And then one
Yeah,
day
no, I get what you meant.
they'll totally turn around on someday. I'm pretty sure of it, and be more than happy to ask me questions about what I think would be cool. I
Yeah.
expect it, right? I don't think tomorrow or even a year from now, but when I start making some reasonable good things that people start turning heads, it always happens. That's when all the people start turning around and saying, hey, what can we do for you? It happens with all things. All right, I think I can draw now. He's asleep.
I think we sort of have a bit of a follow-up question for the whole experience versus no experience thing.
Go for it.
I was looking at like concept art internships because I don't think I've ever even heard of that being a thing before.
Uh-huh.
And all of the stuff I found was sort of a little sketchy, a little bit like very much not worth it. And I was just wondering if you had any experiences or knew anybody who had done that or thought of doing that at their company, I
Yeah.
guess.
So yeah, doing internships are fine. Like, just keep this in mind. If you do an internship, make sure that you get paid somehow.
Yeah.
And I don't mean always by money either.
Mm-hmm.
Like, some internships give you like some accreditation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some internships will allow you to use all the work that you've done for your portfolio. Like, you get some sort of compensation for your time and work.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And the most fairest compensation is paid. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because technically you're doing work and they're going to use it. And so I think internships in general are exploitation sometimes. They exploit these young artists. So don't be
Yeah.
exploited. And just for the record, good companies don't do that. For instance, Blizzard, their internship program is really amazing. They hire pretty much you as a staff, but you are considered an intern, but you get paid
Right.
a very reasonable wage for your work. You have a more flexible schedule because it's assuming that you are going to school still. And so you go to school, and so some days you don't come into work, right? Like, we had somebody that did that. They came in 3 times out of the week, and they worked really good, and then they would be off for 2 days. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember talking to him all the time, and I was like, dude, you should just, like, leave school and get a job.
Yeah.
And he was just like, no, my parents and all this stuff. And I was like, no, seriously, like, you realize that you're working at Blizzard. Like, he said, no, I'm like interning, dude. Like, no, I'm like, you're an employee. We don't look at you as an intern. Like, you're doing work that is comparable to some of what we're doing. You know, like, it's
Mm-hmm.
good. Like, they're putting it in the game. They're going to put it in the game. They consider that good enough to put in. It's professional artwork. We're not making you do grunt work either. We're not making you do like cleanup artwork or anything that we don't
Yeah.
want to do. Like, you're like concepting, and the modeler's modeling it. You know, and so I was like, that's work. You're doing it. And he wasn't convinced at first, but then I think he thought about it more and more, and then he did. He left school. He left before his final year, and then he got a job like instantaneously because he was good enough to. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Yeah. So internships aren't bad. Like, they're great. Just make sure that they are great because
Right.
they can be
Make
very
sure
bad.
that it's not
But you have to
taking
be in school,
advantage of
right?
you.
I'm sorry. Say that
Huh?
again, Leo. What?
You have to be in school, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
that's generally what an internship implies. Like, there's like an internship versus like an apprenticeship. Right? An apprenticeship is like you don't have to be in school, but an internship implies that you are in school.
yeah.
Right? I think. I don't know. I've never been an intern, so I can't say for sure. But that's my assumption. All the interns I've ever known were coming from school.
Hmm.
All right, guys. I'm gonna end it. Oh, I know. I was painting just for that moment, but I can feel him wiggling. He likes when I pat his little booty. Pat that booty, pat that booty, pat that booty. I appreciate you guys. And like I said, I'll keep trying to make up this time that we lost last class and lost that recording too. So even the next class, we'll have a little bit longer Q&A too. Just give you that extra time whenever I can. Appreciate you guys. You guys have been doing great. Stay positive, stay focused, work with one another, stay in contact with one another and other artists in the class, other classes or other classes of the past. There's plenty of people on the Discord to chat and converse with. And with that, y'all, peace out. Laters.
Thanks.
Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. Please subscribe to watch more in the future. If you like the video, I would appreciate a thumbs up. If you like this content, you can go to my website, robotpencil.net, where you can find mentorships, tutorials, and a Patreon to get more exclusive content. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in my next videos.